It's not the norm for me to be up in front of a group of people lately. As an academic advisor, I'm not in front of a class. So it's kind of great to see so many people at once. I love it. All right, so I do want to welcome everyone to our Teacher Education Forum for this year. Thank you for being here in the room. Thank you for being here online. My name is Naomi Ben-Yehuda. I'm one of the arts degree advisors who works with the Faculty of Arts. And the first thing I want to do is to give a land acknowledgement, because at KPU, that's something that we strongly value. We work, study, and live in a region south of the Fraser River, which overlaps with the unceded traditional and ancestral lands of the Kwantlen, Musqueam, Katsi, Semiahmoo, Tsawwassen, Kwakwait, and Coquitlam peoples. As an immigrant to Canada myself, I really appreciate the education that I've gotten at KPU around the issues of reconciliation and decolonization. And I hope that as students, you are also taking advantage of the opportunities that KPU gives to educate yourself on these important issues. And as people who are becoming teachers, I hope you find ways to incorporate that into your personal and professional development so that we can continue that with the next generation. So everyone here, let's see who is in their first 2 years of study here. A couple people, excellent, that's great. Who's in your third year of study here? Some more people, excellent. And then who's in your last year of study? More people, very good. So if you're in your fourth year of study, you've probably gotten very close to graduation. You probably have started your applications to your education programs. If you're in your third year, you're planning ahead, and that's excellent. And if you are in your first 2 years, I'm very glad you're here to start gathering information, to hear the way that you might start preparing for the future steps in your journey. A small note on how KPU can help you get there. No matter your major or minor, there are courses that you can take that focus on education. I certainly want to point out the Department of Educational Studies. If you still have room for electives in your program, then Educational Studies has a number of courses that you can take alongside your major or minor or in your degree that can be really foundational in developing some of these ideas that are going to really help you as you further your education. So I encourage you to take a look at these classes. You can talk to an arts degree advisor for some further advice on other classes and other disciplines that could also be helpful along your journey, not just as prerequisites to all of these programs, but just things that you might find interesting as people who want to be teachers. I want to give you plenty of time to hear from our speakers today and to ask your individual questions. People who are joining us online will have the opportunity to ask questions as well, but we'll get to that. So our first presenters today.
Still not live.
Oh.
So
I will wait. No problem. So let me show you some other things first. I'm the one on the other computer. Okay. Before we get to our presenters, we want to make sure that our online people are with us. So we do have a little bit of a website for guidance on becoming a teacher. This is on the Faculty of Arts page. So if you go to kpu.ca/arts, ARTS, on that page, there's a link that says Becoming a Teacher. And when you look there, you will find some information that we've gathered on the steps you might want to take. Third and fourth year students, you should have done a bunch of this already. But if you're in your first 2 years, this is a good way to think about how you're going to go about getting into your teacher education program. That's hilarious. I guess you will have to trust me that these websites exist. Always a good place to start, kpu.ca/arts, ARTS. I've said it so many times, I can't even tell that's a word, so I always spell it. There's a lot of information on our departmental web pages. You can look at the departments where you're having your major or your minor. You can find so much information there. I'm using that with students all the time, including future course offerings. Since I have a minute, I'll put a plug in. Future course offerings can help you plan ahead for the courses you want, maybe in 2 semesters instead of 1 semester. So very good idea to use the future course offerings website for everybody. Going on with our technology. That's true. We do have refreshments. So I see a number of you already have your coffee. So this is good. I'm going to stick with water. I've had enough coffee today. So we're going to be hearing from a speaker from UFV. We have a speaker from UBC and from SFU. I will certainly let you know that we have had our graduates go to all of these programs. So it is definitely not just possible, but there are very good chances that you can get in to the teacher education program that you want from graduating at KPU. I have a lot of students who ask me, should I just transfer now and finish there and then get in that way? Application processes are equal whether you graduate from KPU or SFU or UBC or UFV. So absolutely, you can finish your degree at KPU and still get into these programs. Fantastic, excellent. All right, that is great. Our technology is now enabled. This is fantastic. So for the people joining us online, thank you for your patience. I think we've gotten our technology figured out for the moment. And to make sure that we proceed in a timely fashion, I'm going to start with our speakers. So our first speaker today is going to be from UFV, the University of Fraser Valley. That's going to be Barbara Salingray. Get the mic.
Well, everyone. My name is Barbara Salingray, and I'm a faculty member in the teaching. I too want to give my appreciation to Ascrium, to the Kwantlen, to the CATSI, and to the... So I'm here to talk to you about the Bachelor, the Fraser Valley. That we were gifted by the Stolo. The Fraser Valley is Olaye Hautsi Westerlack, which means teachers. I'm showing you here a few pictures of our current cohort. They recently had a few at the Gurdwara in Abbotsford, but also at St. Mary's Residential School. Bigger part of our education program. But you probably are interested in hearing some facts and figures and some key information about the program that we offer. Our program is guided by 5 values. That is social justice, critical mindedness, reflective capacity, integration of knowledge and practice, and pedagogical sensitivity. We also have 2 commitments that are part of not only all of our coursework and practica, but also inform some of the admission criteria that we have. Commitments are to decolonization and indigenization, and to social justice and anti-racism. Society, and we look at the inequities in schools, provide opportunities for So what do we offer? We have a post-degree Bachelor of Education program. Essentially, you do your degree here or elsewhere, and you can come to there. It's 10 months semesters. We generally start in mid-June, so a little bit earlier than all of the other programs, because we want to make sure we fit in 55 credits or 25 courses. It's basically what I call a set menu, where we all walk through the program holding hands and taking all of the courses together. There's a lot of thought put into the program as to which courses you're taking at what time. Practica is part of the program. It's full-time. Right now it is based in Abbotsford at the main campus, but Practica certainly can be in 6 of the school districts that we have partnerships with. All right, and maybe before I go to the next part, I should see a show of hands here. Who is interested in becoming an elementary school teacher? Looking at maybe secondary. Lonely person. That's fantastic. Well, let me tell you, teaching is an amazing profession. It's a profession. Right now, there are lots of career opportunities in the field. Society, and change some of the circumstances that folks are in, make a difference, then teaching can be a really rewarding career. So what we have is we have an elementary middle school program for grades kindergarten to grade 7. And we have a capacity right now of 32 seats, which is rather small in comparison to my friends here from SFU and UBC. And we have a secondary option within our BEd, which is for prospective high school teachers like yourself. And within that, we have the humanities option, the humanities stream and the math and science option within secondary. So altogether, 64 teacher candidates every year. The program includes 2 practica, so there will be a school experience in the fall, 5 weeks, where we find you a placement in a school. And then there is the certifying practicum in February to kind of the middle of May. That's the way our program runs. So altogether 17 weeks in the field. Right now we have partnerships with Abbotsford, Chilliwack, Langley, Mission, Maple Ridge, Fraser Cascade for your teaching practicum, but it doesn't mean that that's where you need to necessarily get hired in. We have lots of people working in other districts, and as it so happens, I've invited a Kwantlen alumni to come here today to talk to you about finishing her degree here and then coming to the UFE program, and so she of the inside track as to what it was like for her. And she's actually rushing from her current teaching job here to talk to you. So I'm amazed that she's going to be. All right, so I included a few pictures just to show you that we're really community-based. There are a lot of field experiences that we do throughout the program because we want you to be a teacher too, who takes their students outside, who has place-based activities on the land. And so we have a lot of those learning opportunities built into our program. A couple of facts and figures. This is our 16th cohort right now. We started in 7. And so we have 821 alumni. We keep track. We also keep track as to where they get hired, which is beautiful because now we know that some of our graduates who are teachers are now taking our teacher candidates for their practicum and kind of paying it forward. They're now mentoring our new group teacher candidates. The hiring rate for our graduates has been excellent for the last 5 years. And if you talk to teachers in the field, you probably know that this is a really good time to get into the career. Lots of school districts are short TTOCs every day. A lot of opportunities. So our graduates work all over the place, not just in the Lower Mainland. Provinces and states. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty, which are the academic admission requirements. You're probably interested in that. Every one of our applicants would need to meet 4 specific courses. English is important for any subject area because that is the language of instruction. And so every applicant would have to have English composition. We also front load 2 education courses as part of our admission requirements. And so you can actually get them here at Kwantlen, which is fabulous. The educational practices of teaching and learning. Then there are specific requirements, either if you want to choose elementary, middle, or secondary. So for elementary, middle, you would be a little bit more of a generalist, which means you have to cover a lot of different content areas. And this is why you would have to have 1 course in Canadian geography, a course in math for elementary school teachers, and so on. You could read it here yourself. And I think what differentiates us with some of the other programs too is that we do ask for 12 credits at the upper level in teachable subject areas. They don't have to be in a single area, they can be pieced together, but we really think that having an emphasis on more content is really going to be. Secondary teacher is a bit more of a specialist, and this is why that applicant would have to have a major or a minor in a specific. For us, we support right now 4 teachable subject areas, which would be social studies, English, math, and science. You could certainly bring in a second teachable subject area as well, because that really makes you a bit more variable and gives a lot more flexibility for your placement. And all the details, I don't want to go through all of the numbers and credits and what have you. That's actually available on our website, so I'm just going to continue. The middle school teacher is actually an interesting hybrid sort of position. Not all school districts actually have Chilliwack, and I know Langley has at least 4 middle schools. I always find that that teacher is a bit of a hybrid, being both a generalist, but also a specialist in one area. And it's actually, in my opinion, a fun age to teach. So there are other admission variables, and there's some similarities between some of the education programs, but a big piece obviously is that you have some experience with kids in education. That is the case with our program as well, but we have 4 distinct admission variables. And so one is GPA, but that really right now is 20% of our overall admissions. Heavier emphasis on an outcome of an interview. Measure your GPA based on your last 60 credits. Then we have an interview component. Interview component has actually proven to really assess more non-cognitive dispositions that perhaps we cannot get from just looking at your transcript and just looking at your resume. So we measure other things there, like communication skills, professionalism, and ability to critically think and view things from a variety of different perspectives. Critical thinking is an important skill to have. So the interview is an MMI format that stands for actually move you through a variety of stations, and we have principals and teachers who help us out with interviewing candidates. The blind interview, it doesn't mean that anybody's blindfolded, but it means that interviewers will not have access to any other aspects of your application. Different things with each variable, and then we add all of the points together at the end. But program preparation is another significant aspect of your admission, and we want to ensure that you have had some experience. Children to adolescents, you've worked perhaps in fields, and we don't necessarily distinguish between volunteer work or work. Some of you I hear have been EAs. Environments. Sometimes I get the question, well, I haven't been in a school. They didn't really accept any more volunteers, and that's a fair comment. There are lots of other ways of gaining some insights into what education at the K-12 level look like. One-on-one opportunities, community. In a school, though, will give you a little bit of an insight into what everybody collaborates together to ensure successful. The fourth one is that you submit similar to we accept applications between October 1st. So we're in the thick of it right now, accepting applications. Doesn't matter what date you apply, you know, as long as it's in that time frame and you submit. So those 2 education courses or courses at the upper level progress in the winter semester. Do you call it winter in Abbotsford, January to April? It's spring. All right. So I did something that no educator should do, and that is to put too much text. Don't read everything here. I'm just showing you a little bit of the sequence of the program in terms of what courses are happening when. And as I said, it's sort of a set menu. You walk through the semesters together, and there is a lot of thought as to when you're taking a course. For diversity, perhaps supporting students with conflict resolution, technology education, a lot of thought put behind the sequence. Becoming a teacher, I often say to students, requires then having all of the courses on the right GPA. It is really about your own sense of self-efficacy in a variety of different areas, the dispositions that you develop, that you truly think that this is love working with kids in a positive manner, that you have some reflective capacity and some introspection as to who you are. Sometimes people think that there is this one ideal teacher, and that's really not the case. Students are not the same. And so there are no what we would call cookie cutter teachers. A variety of different backgrounds to reflect more of what our society is all about and the diversity. Really about accepting who you are and being strengths are, and if you have areas of development, as we all. A couple of points to consider, and of course I'm a little biased for this program, but we do feel that we have a good reputation in the Fraser Valley specifically, but in particular in the areas of planning and assessment. Have a good working relationship with our school districts. We're very community-based. We actually take feedback from the school districts. And we've just gone through an accreditation, and so changed a lot of content again from our courses. Try to always ensure best practices, which means that the faculty who teach in our program also will be going into the field and actually mentoring the teaching. There's a comprehensive coverage of methods courses. They are scheduled in a way that you would have them before your long certifying practicum, because but every teacher takes courses in social justice, second language learning, Indigenous education, and special education, because we think it's a small cohort, but we do feel a lot of support when you are on practicum. Couple of things too is that we have some optional practicum extensions. So if you're particularly interested in the specialty area, we usually tag on about a 2-week time period. Specialty areas such as French, if that's your background, special ed, or technology ed, or home economics. Those opportunities at the end of the certificate. Also big on community building, fundraising, and professional development. You see that. Back to the Starfish Backpack Program for the community. I'm just showing one quick slide to say that we do have a master's program. Part-time program that accommodates the working team. Certainly you can talk to me later And I think I'm lapsed. Here are our contact numbers and information. Everything is on the website, and I really appreciate it and listening online.
Thank you so much. For those students who are in the Fraser Valley area, I know that's an excellent opportunity, and I'm so glad you were able to tell us all about your program. Did you have the student here that you were hoping for? I don't recall. Okay. Excellent. That's so great. That's really going to be, it's always good to hear from our students who have gone on to these programs so that you can get the benefit of their experiences as they've gone through it, both the application process as well as going through the education themselves. So that's really fantastic. Right. Our next speaker is going to be from, oh, that's not what I want. Our next speaker is going to be from UBC.
Hi, everybody. My name is Justin O'Hearn. I'm the manager of admissions at UBC Teacher Education Office. Very pleased to be with you here today. Just to let you know, I'm also coming from the unceded territories, which is a fancy word for stolen, of the Musqueam and Tsleil-Waututh and Salish people, by way of Nova Scotia, which is the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Start off today just showing a bit of our team. That's me on the left, and then Matthew Duckworth is another admissions officer in our office, Derek Wong and Michael Goko, and this is basically your admissions team. We have a very small team of about 7 different people who handle about 1,500 applications each year. So just to give you some idea of the scope of what our office does. So today I'm going to be speaking to you about mostly the 11-month program, but I want to let you know about some of the other programs that we offer. So of course, elementary and middle years program, which is one of our most popular. Our secondary program, these are both 11-month programs. We also offer the West Kootenay Rural Teacher Education Program, which was affectionately known as WECTEP. That's also elementary and secondary, and it's a cohort of about 60 students, and it takes place entirely in Nelson, British Columbia. We have a satellite campus up there. And pardon me, new for us is the Rural and Remote program. That is only for elementary and middle years. It's a 24-month part-time program, and it's largely for those student teachers who are already working, sometimes on a letter of permission with the Ministry of Education. Sometimes they are education assistants, but usually they're already in educational fields, or they came to education from a sort of non-traditional or a non-linear way. So if that is you, anyone in here, please come and talk to me about that. We're going to be offering another cohort in 2024. So there's some time to get ready for that one. So there is no intake for the next year for that rural program. And last but not least, of course, we have our NITEP program, which is the Indigenous Teacher Education Program. That is a direct entry 4 to 5 year program. You can come in directly out of high school, which I don't know if that's the case for anyone listening today, but you can also come into the program at any stage, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th year, and your 5th year is your professional year. So that's your Bachelor of Education year, and that's specifically designed for Indigenous applicants. And if anyone has more questions about what NITEP entails, what it's like, we can always talk a little bit later. Just wanted to let everybody know that that's an option that we offer. So very quick overview of our 11-month programs. They're all delivered on campus on our Vancouver and our Nelson campuses. And they have practicum periods of 2 weeks, 10 weeks, which is your qualifying practicum. And then we have a 3-week, what we call a community field experience. And that is where you would be in a non-traditional learning setting. It won't be a classroom necessarily, but it could be at a different learning institution. We have students who go to things like Science World. We have students that go overseas to do it at schools overseas in various countries. And there's lots and lots of opportunity, which I can name them all day, but we don't have time to name all of them. We have lots of partners around the world. So that's an exciting part of the program that a lot of students get a lot of. So we'll talk mostly about the requirements for applying and admitting and getting accepted. So the first requirement we'll talk about, of course, is the bachelor degree. So everyone who comes into our program for the 11-month option is required to have a 4-year equivalent of a 4-year 120 credit bachelor degree. Coincidentally, what KPU offers, so congratulations, you're already there. It can be from any accredited institution that's domestic or international. And it can be in any discipline, which can be sometimes a little bit confusing for folks. So we get a lot of students who have, say, a psychology major. So psych is not a teachable subject area in BC, but we do accept that for admission into the Bachelor of Education elementary middle years, as long as you have those other. And those other requirements are as follows. Very similar across the board with all the other teacher education programs, because a lot of these are your certification requirement courses. So your Canadian studies, Canadian history or geography, 6 credits of English or French literature and composition, 3 credits in lab science, and 3 credits in mathematics. We also calculate on the most recent 60 credits. And for the secondary program, each teachable area has its own unique requirements. So you have to have usually the equivalent of at least a minor, if not a major, in those areas. And usually it's 30 credits, and there's some specific things. I won't go through every single one of them today because we don't have very many secondary people in the audience, I don't think. But it's in all of these teachable subject areas that we offer the secondary program. And you're required to have a minimum of 18 senior level credits in whatever teachable subject areas that you wish to teach. And you can do up to 2. And then the rest of the credits can be in the lower years. And just like our colleagues, we do accept applicants with courses and degrees still in progress, as long as you are finished everything by June the 30th of the year that you're applying for. So if you're applying for September of 2023, we would expect that your degree in progress is complete by June, and that we would have a transcript by the end of July. But if you do have your courses completed by the application deadline, which is in January, that does make for a more competitive admission evaluation. So just something to keep in mind. And I will say that KPU does a great job for those students, because I know that your semesters run a little differently and a little bit longer. They do a great job here of their advisors giving us the program completion letter, which is really, really important. So if you are graduating later than June, make sure you talk with the folks in Naomi's office about getting one of those completion letters. And basically all it says is that this student will complete their degree by this date. And that helps us out a lot. And the experience requirements we'll talk about next. So what kinds of experiences are required and relevant? So we have a suggested minimum of about 100 hours of relevant experience and hopefully recent experience. So you have an opportunity to list up to 5 different experiences that you believe are most relevant to your application. Many students come in with more, some maybe with not as many as 5, but they have some really relevant, good experience that they can put on there. Just because you don't have 5 doesn't mean you're not going to be competitive. What is really important is that the experiences are relevant, that they are with the age group of kids or students that you're looking to teach, and that you have somebody that you worked with who can perhaps act as a good reference for you, because the reference part is really, really important to our application as well. So these are the requirements, just kind of in a nutshell, as I said. Of course, classroom experience is great. It's preferred, but it's not required. So things like coaching, group tutoring, summer camps. Think about this. You want to make sure that the experience is with groups, preferably larger groups of 10 or more students of the age that you're looking to teach, and that you are in some sort of a leadership position. Not just observing, not just in the back of the room, not just handing out papers, that sort of thing, but that you're actively taking a role in that experience. So I can use the classroom example because it is the easiest one to do. So in a classroom, you're actively engaging with the students, and the teacher is sort of guiding that or supporting you in that. That's a really good type of experience. We can also consider it international experience, but we do prefer that we have some Canadian experience to put on the application. And again, you can list up to 5 different things. Another part of the application process is your personal profile. So this is just 3 questions. They're up there. You can start thinking about them now. 1,500 characters each, so about 200 to 300 words, so not very long. And they're just really some broad-ended questions to get you thinking about what kind of teacher do you want to be and how are you going to achieve that? And the one thing that I always give advice when students ask about these questions is, what do you want me to write? I don't care what you write, to be honest. What you want to do is to make sure that you're answering these questions honestly, in your own voice, you sound like yourself, and that you're linking it back to something concrete, not something sort of aspirational or something that you haven't actually achieved, but making sure you link it back to your own experiences in really relevant ways. And I always tell people to use your own voice, just because you don't want it to sound like a 17th century aristocrat. You want to sound like whoever you are right now. Okay, so no fancy language, please. Straightforward. Get someone to proofread, read them out loud to yourself. Say, does this sound like me? Is this an honest portrayal of what I've been doing? And then the last part is the reference portion. So for each application, we require 2 professional references, and they would be hopefully people who are authorities in education, or someone who is in a position of authority in one of your experiences, who can speak to your professional qualities, your competencies, that sort of thing, as far as becoming an educator and your preparation for the field of education. And who those people are is completely up to you. We can't really tell you who's going to be a better reference. The question we get a lot is, can I have the principal of the school be a reference? Would that be better? Did the principal observe you with students? Usually not. Usually it's the classroom teacher. So it's that person that you have that relationship with, that you were working with day in, day out, that person who might even know your first name, which is really good, which most principals won't. Make sure it's someone that you've had an active role with. So title doesn't really matter as much as that content does. Of course, there are lots of people who are not good references. Your mom might love you a lot, but she's not going to be a great reference for you because she's got a bias, let's put it that way. This is just some information about 4 referees, about the things they must and mustn't do. This is just a really long-winded way of saying that everything that the referee communicates to our office is private and confidential. So really it's up to the applicant to make sure that the referee is adequately prepared and that you have not seen any of the things that they will have written, because we want to make sure that that process is as secure as possible so that the references can say whatever it is they need to say on that reference report. And the all important question about how do we assess things, it's these 2 tiers, 50-50. 50% is your GPA, your average, and your coursework. And the other 50% is the things we were just talking about, the references, the personal profile, and your experiences. Those get read by a team of evaluators, and then the decision is made from there. Lastly, you'll need to send all your transcripts from all your post-secondary institutions. So KPU, anywhere you may have been before that you've transferred into KPU. So if you maybe transferred somewhere from Langara or somewhere maybe in another country or another province, you'll need to send fresh transcripts directly from those institutions to the UBC TEO, even if you have transfer credits at KPU. And all that's required by the 15th of January. The application is live now. It's live as of October 1st. Our deadline is January the 15th. We do get about 75% of our applications in January. So if you want to get ahead of the curve and do it sooner rather than later, please do. But just know that January is a very busy time for our little office. And if you do plan to apply in January because you want to wait until this semester's courses have finished so that you can have more grades on your transcript that are final, that's fine. Do not apply on January 14th. January 15th is the deadline for almost every program at UBC, and it will crash our system. They crash every year on the 14th and the 15th because everyone who's waiting until the last minute will crash those things. So yeah, this is basically it. This is a few bits of information on how you can apply the academic requirements we just talked about. And if you have any questions, you can always get in touch with us, or I'm here live in person today. We can talk at the back later. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to check on a clarification. The way we typically advise students regarding transcripts is to send one now with your courses in progress and then send one in January with the grades from the fall semester and whatever you're taking in January. Is that a good idea? I know he doesn't know. I was going to repeat his answer. Yeah, that'll be great. Thanks.
Yeah, you can do that. There's not, if it's going to cost you more money to do it that way, I wouldn't bother. If you can wait until your final grades are in, because nothing is going to be evaluated till after the 15th anyway. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, I didn't know that.
That's helpful.
Yeah, and anything, and transcripts is one of those things that is really confusing anyway. So if I can answer any of those questions or clarify it for everyone, that would be my pleasure.
Excellent. Well, that's helpful for me to know also. Great. So you don't have to send transcripts multiple times, but probably after grades are in December would be the ideal time to do it. There is a website, KPU's website has a request for transfer credit so that you can do it efficiently, and they will send your transcript. I think it says within 1 or 2 weeks of you submitting that form. And for these schools, I'm pretty sure it goes electronically. So it will be very secure and they'll get what they need. So that's fantastic. Thank you very much. And we are going to go to our third presenter, which is SFU.
And thank you everyone for coming today. My name is Suzanne Norman. I'm the coordinator of admissions and recruitment for the pre-service professional studies programs at SFU. And that is the teacher certification branch of the Faculty of Education. I know we've already heard a few land acknowledgements today, but I think it is important that SFU recognizes they have 3 campuses, Vancouver, Burnaby, and Surrey. And so we are also on the unceded lands of the Squamish, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Musqueam people. And I come via the Coquitlam territory. Oh. I hit the wrong one, didn't like that. SFU is currently running 4 teacher education programs, and our teacher education programs are set up for either different locations in the province of British Columbia or for student teachers that are at different stages of their academics or their career. So I'll talk mostly about the professional development program, the PDP today, but I will briefly go over the others. The Helping Ease Access for Returning Teachers is the one program that we don't go over because that's for people who were formerly certified teachers or currently certified teachers looking to get back into teaching. So it's not appropriate probably for anyone here today. The model of SFUs is a little bit different than some of the other teacher education programs here today. So we have faculty who teach in our program, but we also use what are called faculty associates. Those are seconded teachers from the BC school systems. They come to work for us for somewhere between 2 to 5 years. They work with our student teachers during the practicum component of the program. So not to overwhelm you with too many course numbers, but that's Education 401, 402, and 405. So they work with you and the school associates, which are the teachers that allow you to come into their classrooms to learn to be a teacher. So they're great. They play a really important role in not only helping our student teachers be successful in their practicum, they're also the people that read over the applications. So my title sounds important, but it's not really important. The faculty associates, they read your resume, they look over your references, and they score your application. So your essay and your resume and your recommenders are really what get you into the program. So the PDP itself is one of the oldest teacher education program in the province. It has changed over the years. So when SFU was created more than 50 years ago, the Faculty of Education was one of the founding programs, and so was the PDP. So it has changed, but what continues is the program still works in small groups throughout. So even though we may be larger than our friends at Fraser Valley, we do still have small classrooms. So of the 400 and something odd people we might admit in a year, the classroom sizes are actually between 16 and 34. So you will get to know your classmates and the faculty associates and the faculty very well. No matter which of our teacher education programs you go into, we do recommend you for BC teacher certification at the end. There's 2 different types of certification depending on whether your degree is complete or not. And I'll go into the requirements of the programs in a little bit. If you enter the PDP, PLP, or ACOTE, then you do have the option to do the Bachelor of Education as a second degree. It's actually not required to do the Bachelor of Education as a second degree to be a teacher. It's the teacher education program plus your academic coursework you did before you entered our program that allows you to be certified in the province. Now, everyone also will meet these 10 goals of our faculty, and there's more information about those 10 goals on our website, but it's things like indigeneity, things like that. So I encourage you to go to our website. The PDP is the largest of our teacher education programs, and it's the one that probably most of you here today are interested about. It's a full-time fall intake. It's 16 months long, and it goes fall, spring, summer, fall. So each semester is full-time. You cannot miss a semester. It's a post-degree program, which means this teacher ed program at SFU does require you to have your degree done before you enter. You can apply with your degree in progress, and we give you until the end of August to finish your degree. So if when you're applying, your degree is in progress, you simply get a letter from the advisor saying when you're going to finish your degree, and as long as you're going to finish by the end of August, you're good to go for entering the PDP program. And as I said, the Bachelor of Education as a second degree is a very popular option. When we changed the PDP about 4 years ago, we added an extra semester, and that extra semester means that to get the Bachelor of Ed as a second degree is no additional coursework or time for any of our students. And there's the approximate cost of the program. Okay, the PLP. So this stands for the Professional Linking Program. And this is our program that's geared towards paraprofessionals in the BC school system. So paraprofessionals, you might be like, what the heck's that? So that is people like education assistants, student support workers. Another good example is people who are working on a letter of permission in the school system. So there are some people that get permission to work in the schools as teachers without being fully certified to teach. So the most common scenario we see is in the French Francophone schools and also in the Northern BC schools. So this program in the Lower Mainland, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So the Lower Mainland, the program starts every spring. It's 16 months. It is a blended program. So it means that part of the program, you're actually allowed to keep working your job in the school district. And then you go to schools in the evenings and weekends. And then you take a short leave of absence to do the practicum component of your program. So the PLP is a great program for anyone who's currently working in the school systems that has 2 years that wants to continue to work while they do their teacher training. So up until literally 2 weeks ago, the only option to do this program was in the Lower Mainland, but we actually are launching a program for fall 2023 in the Peace region. So if you go to our website, you'll see information on the PLP Peace region. Information session starts in an hour online. So if you have your phone, you can log in. We will hold another one in January. And this is going to allow people who live in the Fort St. John and the Dawson Creek area of the province to keep their jobs in the school system and also do their teacher training. So the surrounding school districts. So it's really great that we're going to try to run that for fall 2023. Speaking of Fort St. John in Dawson Creek, an area that I actually was lucky enough to visit just a few weeks ago, ACOTE is our Alaska Highway Consortium on Teacher Education, which is, you can see why we have a short version for its name. So this takes place in Fort St. John and Dawson Creek. It is similar to the PDP in terms of 3 of the semesters are actually the same. It's the first semester that's different than the PDP. And this is for people who want to live and work in Northern BC. It has different admission requirements than the PDP. You can actually enter ACOTE with your degree still in progress. The only people that have to have the degree finished before they enter is people wanting to teach secondary level. So because only one person put their hand up, it's everyone except for that one person. Sorry. It's an awesome opportunity to get going on your teacher training if you're almost done your degree, but you're not quite. And especially if you want to live in a part of the province that has a lower cost of living. It's definitely, I think when they do these information sessions, sometimes people start talking about the cost of housing and things. So, and there's definitely a need for teachers in the north. So we'd love for people to consider that one. I'm going to talk about the PDP admission requirements, like UBC and Fraser Valley. Some of the basic academic things are the same because they're based on the teacher certification branch requirements, but others are not. So first off, as I said, you have to finish your degree before you enter. You need to have 6 units of English. I've put some examples of KPU courses that'll work. We get lots of students from KPU entering our program. I never thought to bring a student, but I'm going to do that next year. I'm going to do it. Our minimum GPA is a 2.5 GPA, and it's based on your most recent 60 units of undergraduate level coursework. And what's important to know about that GPA is that is the minimum. People ask us all the time, what's the real GPA for people getting in? And it really is 2.5. And that's because the GPA is only worth about 3% of your final composite score. Most of your score is based on your recommendations and how the faculty associates scored your application. So we're looking at your work experience and your volunteer experience, because just like the other schools, we as long as you're working with children and youth in the community, that's what's important. We don't care if you're paid or doing it volunteer. So our GPA really is 2.5. You can be competitive with 2.5, and you can have a 4.33 and not get in. I've had those angry phone calls. So the structure of our program for the PDP, keeping in mind this is on our website, so you don't have to memorize everything. The first semester is Education 400. So our student teachers will explore teaching and learning. They'll do a lot of attending seminars. They go out into the community and see how teaching and learning is done outside of the BC classrooms. So it sounds like a little bit like what UBC is doing sort of at the end of theirs. We do it at the beginning, and you're going to attend lots of lectures and lots of critical inquiry and self-reflective practices. You're going to look back on what are you learning and how are you bringing it into the classrooms and how can you learn from that. The next semester is the 401, 402 semester. maybe a little blurry, but you guys can probably see it. This is when you do 5 weeks in the school. So the first week is just observation. You come back into the classrooms, you go back out again for a 5-week practicum. And in between, you're also learning how to prepare yourself to be a teacher. The summer semester is our Education 404. That's when people do their professional coursework. So you are required to go full-time. The courses can be taken on either the Burnaby campus or the Surrey campus. The PDP does run out of both of those campuses, and a little bit of the coursework can be done online, but you do have to be full-time. You have to take the full 15 units. Last but not least is your Education 405 semester, and that's when you're going on your teaching practicum, and you will be out in the schools for a minimum of 10 weeks. So you come to our campus at the beginning of September, and then you're out into the real world classrooms for 10 weeks. You'll follow the bell schedule of whatever teacher you're assigned to, and at the end of, say, November, I think they wrap it up in about a week and a half, our practicum. Beginning of December, the students are done, and we review their coursework, and so they're recommended for teacher certification at the beginning of January. Our PDP works in what are called modules. So at the very first semester, it's professional learning communities, and then it's modules. So the whole program is actually very community first based approach. So we like to keep the groups small. We like to put you out in the community. So some of our modules actually take place in the community. So there's like the community module, there's a Burnaby module. Some of them are seeds. That's one that focuses on environmental education. Playworks focuses on phys ed, things like that. So there's different themes, but there are 3 modules that people have to apply to at the time of application to the program. And one of them is the International Teacher Education Program, and that's a program that we send 17 students to Mexico and 17 students to India in the fall semester, your first fall semester. So obviously you have to apply to that because you have to be willing to travel, and you have to cover the expenses of the travel to the country. But once you get there, we will take care of everything else. So it's a great opportunity for people that want to see how teaching and learning is done in another country. And even if you go on this international experience, you're still certified to teach in British Columbia. You're just doing, it's approximately 6 weeks you're out of the country with us. Some people, because it does end in early December, they do decide to stay in the country over the winter holidays. So they might not return back to BC until January, but that's totally up to you. So I don't know, Christmas in Mexico sounds pretty good to me. The Indigenous Perspectives Teacher Education module, that is our smallest module with 16 people. You do not have to be Indigenous to enter that module. However, they are looking for people who are active in the community, part of the community, and are interested in learning how to bring more indigeneity into the classroom. So everyone is welcome to apply. It's really popular. We get about 70 people applying for those 16 spots every year. And last but not least is the French module. The French module is, it used to be our largest teacher education module. There's a shortage of French teachers at the moment. So if you speak French or you attended a French immersion school and you're interested in teaching in French again in the province of British Columbia, I encourage you to come to the back and speak to me afterwards. That's a module that you do indicate at the time of application because we need to know that you're interested, and we look for a DELF score from you. More information on all of the modules on our website. I'm going to talk briefly about the admission requirements for elementary. So for the PDP, elementary is kindergarten to grade 8 or grade 7. Like the others here, we are looking for you to have a degree. For the elementary stream, we will accept 3-year degrees from out of province. So if there's anyone here who's got a degree from Ontario, Quebec, the UK, India, France, those are the ones we see the most. A 3-year degree is good. You just need to pick up the elementary prereqs that are specific to the province of British Columbia, Canadian history, Canadian geography, math 190, and a lab science. And we have a chart with all the, I put examples, but you don't have to just stick to those. There's a great chart that you can look at. secondary PDP. This is for people who want to teach grade 8 to 12 in the secondary school system. You do have to have a 4-year degree for this one. So if you've got one of those smaller, shorter degrees, you'd have to talk to us about how you would apply to the secondary level. And we are looking for specific teachable subjects. So we don't have as big a grouping as UBC, but we have English, we have science, math, our ever most popular social studies, music and visual arts. So if you're interested in any of those, that's definitely, you can come speak to us. If you are math, physics, or French, we're extra excited. If you're here, is anyone wanting, well, we only had one secondary person. Oh, maybe 2. Okay, awesome. Come see me later. So if your degree is in theater, dance, computing science, or phys ed, for the PDP secondary, you do have to have another teachable subject for that. But if your degree is in one of those, you can come talk to me about how you would work that in. This is how we evaluate our applications. So all the teacher ed programs do an evaluation differently. You've heard about interviews that are happening with Fraser Valley and things like that. So what we do is the academic component of your application is actually, it's less than 11%. It says 11% here, but only 3% of that is your GPA. So the rest of it is sort of critical reflection and questions on whether people think you would be a good post-secondary student teacher. Rest of it, as you can see, is you're getting scored based on your recommender questions and what the faculty associate is seeing in your essay and in your recommendations and your resume. Are you suitable? Are you ready to enter a teacher ed program? Do you have the right disposition? Do you have experience, whether that's in a classroom or after school programs or teaching fine and performing arts or coaching? We want to know that you've put some thought into it. If you're applying to teach secondary, we strongly encourage you to get into the BC classrooms to see what the curriculum is like and to see whether that's a subject you truly want to teach. All our applications are scored with a composite score between 0 and 4. I've never seen a 0, but I've also never seen a 4. People who score very strong are usually offered a seat in the program. It's pretty competitive. We get over 1,100 applicants each year, usually for approximately 400 seats. People who score strong may be offered admission. They might be waitlisted. If you're waitlisted for the program, it's not necessarily bad news. We admit a lot of people over the summer off the wait list. And people who are not successful, so if you do score lower, you can definitely meet with myself or one of the other coordinators and we'll go over your application on how you can improve it. Most of the time, we meet with the people and they tell us all sorts of wonderful things about themselves that are not on their application. So it's not on their resume, it wasn't in their essay, and they didn't use a recommender from it. So give some real thought, check out the website and make sure you're using the right people and including the right information on your submissions. Applications are open, and this year our application deadline is moving to January 31st at 4 o'clock. Okay. And that's to prevent us coming in the next day and having dozens of phone messages with people trying to submit their application last minute when they can't. Like UBC, we get a large number of people submitting in the last 48 hours. So we actually one year had, keep in mind, we have 1,100. We had 800 of the applications come in the last 48 hours. So everyone thinks it's just them, but no, it's all of you. So I do encourage you to apply early. Our system has never crashed, but we did have a problem one year with PayPal crashing. So the next intake, it's open. You do have to apply to both our office. There's an application with our office, and then there's an application with SFU undergrad. So it's a little bit of a complicated process at SFU, but you can definitely come and talk to me if you have any questions about that. And that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. It is always good to hear about your programs. I know that we have a lot of students who are graduates of our education assistant program who are really looking forward to getting into the PLP. So that's an excellent opportunity that you guys have. So this is all excellent. And it's good to know that so much of what you presented is on your website. I know that each of these schools have excellent resources on their websites, including worksheets that tell you the equivalent courses at KPU for their entrance requirements for both elementary and secondary applicants. I can tell you that arts degree advisors have memorized the entrance requirements for elementary students because we have a whole lot of students who want to go into that program, so we can talk you through that very easily. As for secondary applicants, we do encourage you to go to their website, and we refer to those all the time because they do update, you know, maybe not every year, but every so often, and it'll change depending on the university. And I wanted to present one more speaker who can talk about the student experience. So this is a KPU alumna who's going to give her perspective on this whole process. Come on up and introduce yourself. Stick that up there for now, but we'll focus on you.
Great. Yes, I don't have any fancy slides. My apologies. My name is Caitlin, and before I present, I thought I would raise my hands up in respects to the host nations who have allowed me this opportunity to speak on their land. So my name is Caitlin. I am a first-year elementary school teacher. I am a KPU alumni as well as a UFV alumni. I graduated from KPU in 2021 with a bachelor's of arts in general studies with a minor in counseling and an education stream. I was very much so in your shoes. About 2 years ago, I came to this very exact presentation where I met all of these lovely presenters. I applied to all of these schools, actually all 4 of these programs. I applied to UBC, PLP, PDP, and UFE. A little bit of my background is I worked as an educational assistant for 3 years. I did the KPU EDAS program in 2017 to 2018. I worked for 3 years as an EA full-time while doing school part-time in the evenings. And then I applied to all 4 of these programs. I got admitted into 3 out of the 4, and I was waitlisted for PLP. So there are some success stories. So I will just share you my journey. So I had, of course, this exact presentation. I had lots of inspiration. I was planning my courses with Naomi directly. She was wonderful and very helpful, as most of you probably already know. I knew from the start, probably around 5 years old, that I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. And that's so cliche, but I had the heart, the passion, and I witnessed the love of teaching from my mom firsthand. So I knew that teaching was in it for me. And that's why I pursued educational assistance first and followed up with my passion of wanting to teach one day. So I came to these presentations. I gained lots of experience and understanding of what these programs had to offer. And as biased as I can be, I will say that UFE was a very amazing choice, and I can't regret anything about it. It was immensely beautiful. I had the privilege of working with many academic counselors along my way. Make sure that you're doing the correct prereqs, because I've witnessed many of my friends not be admitted into programs because of small errors in their coursework. So make sure that you've got that settled. I also just really had a hard time kind of deciding which one I wanted to go to. Ultimately, UFE was a very similar structure to what I was used to at KPU, with smaller class sizes of, I was at KPU, so we had 30 or so in a class. And I was really attracted to that smaller cohort size. And I was familiar with the system there at UFE being a smaller cohort of only accepting around 32 students. So it was also closer to my home. So I decided to pursue UFE's education program. And I was privileged to meet amazing professors along the way. Something I really benefited from was the professors there have all gone through work in the education system and have been teachers themselves. So I found it very beneficial to learn alongside them and for them to understand where I came from, as they were flexible with understanding the workload of being a student teacher, and as well as the perspectives that UFV had to offer. As I am a Métis citizen, I have to say that they did a great job with showing both Indigenous perspective and Eurocentric ways of knowing. So it was very interesting to see the compatibility and the perspectives of each course. All of these programs have so much to offer, so choose what's great to you. I know that can be overwhelming and it's kind of tricky this time of application, so know that you will get through it. If you would love to speak with me about my experience, I'm happy to share that. I know you're probably feeling overwhelmed from hearing about all of the acceptances and the GPAs. So believe me, I understand how you feel. I was in your shoes a few years ago. So know that you are so close to doing it and you have all bright futures ahead of you. So all the best to you. If there's anything somebody would like to speak with me with, I'm very much so happy to do so after this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. It was great to hear all that about you. I hope that you all take advantage of information sessions that each university does. I'm hoping that you guys are going back to some in-person info sessions on your campuses. And if not, if you students maybe want to visit the campuses to get a feel for it, that can also help you kind of get used to the environment and see if it's going to be a good fit for you. So at this time, I think we're going to take some questions from students. And Kita, could you take the microphone around to students? So I know that you have questions, and I know that our online attendees also had questions, but we're having technical difficulties, and I greatly apologize for that. But we will be posting this on the web, so they'll be able to hear some of your questions. So no pressure on you, but you have to represent all students. All right, so do we have any questions for any of our presenters? Excellent. Thank you for being the first to volunteer. Fantastic, all the questions.
My question's for UFB, for Barbara. I have heard from a few people that there's a couple-year wait list. So your intake or your application process, October 1st to January 31st. Would that be, for example, just say 2023, if you got in January 2023, your applicant, would that be for the following that June, or would it be for 2024 June?
So just to repeat for the microphone, can you come up here to answer? She wanted to know about the wait lists for UFV. If you're on the wait list, will you get offered a course in 2023 or in 2024?
Thank you for that. So the application happens only once a year, and the deadline is indeed January the 31st. In February, we are also buried in documents and we're reviewing all of the applications. In March, we have the interviews, and admission decisions are generally made at the end of March, beginning of April, for the subsequent August start. So we admit in the year that the application deadline is for the same year. And yes, we have a wait list. And last year we had quite a number of folks decide for other institutions. And so we also admitted a lot of people from our wait lists, because sometimes people apply to all of these wonderful programs and then they make a decision, they procrastinate kind of making the decision, and we're all waiting, trying to backfill. And so this always happens.
Did you have other questions? Or is that primary? Okay. Does anyone else have a question for anyone?
I actually have a question for the SFU programs. I was wondering, with respect to the PDP and PLP, is the workload similar, the same, or do you take into account that PLP, like people are still working? Is that adjusted?
So the question was regarding the workload of each of these programs. Does the PLP take into account the fact that people are working while taking classes?
So the workload is slightly different, and that's because the PDP, they have to attend full-time every semester, Whereas with the PLP, people have to be working full time, so they have to be at a 60% workload. So someone probably at 100% might not want to opt in to do some of their professional coursework early. So there is a little bit of leeway for people to take some of the professional coursework earlier than the summer, or if they want to. We don't get a lot of people doing this after the long practicum. So in the end of the 16 months, you are doing everything you need to do for certification, but it is less coursework than the PDP. And you can apply to all of the teacher ed programs. That's the other thing. We get people, you can apply to PDP and PLP. PLP, super competitive. So like 200 applicants for 32 seats. So
That's probably where those references and writing a very good personal statement come into play. Absolutely. Question. Right here.
I don't know who can specifically answer this, but maybe you can, Naomi, but is there any specific scholarships you would recommend us applying for?
That is an excellent question. I have no idea. I am sorry. I would certainly talk to Student Awards about that. If you're talking about scholarships as you are in KPU and completing your KPU program, if you're talking about going into the other schools, that sounds like something that you'd work with them on, maybe with these fine folks themselves who can give you some guidance in that. Excellent. That's an excellent question too. Oh, sure, please.
So we don't have scholarships per se at UBC for the Bachelor of Ed, but what we do have are, we just had this on Monday night, our annual awards night for new students, where we gave out something like 50 different awards ranging from $500 to $10,000. There's various awards for various students in various programs from various donors. So we have quite a few alumni and quite a few donors who make these things possible, and some of them are in internal awards from UBC themselves as well. UBC Student Services also has a list of scholarships and other awards that all UBC students are eligible for. There's also other types of funding for various groups of students. For instance, there's a former youth in care program that students can take advantage of if a student was in a foster situation growing up. There's lots and lots of awards for Indigenous students. There's really too many to list off the top of my head, but if that's something that you want to look more into, my advice would be to check out you.ubc.ca first for more general award things and other types of financial help with tuition and things. And then once you're in the UBC program, then we can steer you toward other more specific awards for education students. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
For all three of you, do you know the split for like the 11,000 or 1,100? Is it mostly like 60, 80% elementary, or do you all know the numbers?
So is it more a question of, is elementary
Yeah, like,
more
just, like,
competitive than
yeah.
secondary?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
all the applicants, like of the 1,100, the majority applied to elementary, just like when we asked for a show of hands. Some people applied to both elementary and secondary. So elementary does have more seats, I know, with us. So of our 400 seats, half of them are elementary, right? So your odds, even though there's more, are better. Certain secondary teachables are more competitive than others because of the volume of people that we get applying to it. So I can only speak for SFU, but by far the most popular secondary subject is social studies. We get consistently 6 times more applicants every year than what we have seats. The one that we get would be French, would be the one, French or math, maybe. So
Another thought that I've heard about for these secondary education applicants, definitely math and science, French, which we have French language classes, but only up to a certain level. So we can help you find ways to meet those requirements, but also the home ec area. Is something that I'm not sure if we have students in the Faculty of Arts, but if we have students who maybe are in the Wilson School of Design or something like that, that's also an area that can be taught at the secondary level. We do not have kinesiology at KPU, so you'd need to kind of coordinate with the other schools to figure out how to get into the phys ed kind of area, right? Yes.
So sorry, I missed a couple like at the start of like due to like a appointment.
That's all
But
right.
I was just wondering if someone, for example, wanted their teachables to be math and French, would that be possible? And would there be any extra maybe barriers to get that, or do you have to pick one or the other? Yeah.
So just a brief note for KPU, we do have a math major that has a stream for math education. So that is something that you can do at KPU. You can also have, instead of one teachable major, have two teachable minors. So if math and French work out like that, then you can try that. Again, I'm just going to have to watch out for the French part to make sure that we're offering the classes you need. So we would check in with the other schools on what they require for French. Question? Someone else? Let's come back to the front.
Hi, my question will be for anybody, I guess. I know it's emphasized to get a lot of exposure in BC schools and get that K to 12 experience. My question is like, what's a good way to get your foot in the door, especially if you've never worked in a school before? And like any tips would be good.
That's an excellent question. Please.
Yeah, tips and tricks. That's a really great question. We get at that a lot. And generally speaking, what we tell students is that that now is the time to start working your networks. Some people are fortunate and they have people that they know already in schools. And so they just go to those people and say, hey, can I get in your classroom? That's the easiest route. The harder route is you don't know anybody, but you might know someone who knows someone. So there's those sorts of things, but there's also other ways to create opportunities, especially in a campus environment such as KPU, SFU, UBC. There's lots of things like camps that happen, sports camps, other types of youth camps, things like that, science and STEM. So there are those opportunities. And the one thing, and I'll echo what Barbara had said earlier, we don't differentiate between volunteer and paid. And if I'm being honest, I'd rather you get paid for your time. So if you can find an experience, say as a day camp counselor, and you can earn some money while doing that, do that, right? But yeah, it's really one of those things. And I've had students who will just cold call principals and vice principals and things like that. That's really scary. But most people understand the situation if they're in schools, especially if they're newer, such as Caitlin would understand, having just gone through this process herself. So yeah, that's kind of a general catch-all answer, but it's really what happens on the ground.
Do you find that you have students who go back to their high school or their elementary school that they went to and then just see if they can volunteer their time there? Does that often work? Yeah, sure.
Often a really good start to do that, although for long term, I generally don't recommend it because it's really good to be in new environments. Because you don't want to be perhaps stuck to be sort of John, the former fantastic student. You may want to be really Mr. Smith, the future teacher. But that's the kind of networking that Justin was talking about, just finding sort of an in. I know lots of schools are hiring noon hour supervisors for an hour or two a day. That's kind of it, but it is about perhaps even contacting, if you have a favorite teacher, contact that favorite teacher and say, hey, do you happen to know somebody at this school? somebody who's looking for a volunteer, I'm only available on Friday afternoons. But that's kind of your foot in the door a little bit. And once you're in the school, then you can maybe serve in the learning assistance room, follow the Aboriginal support worker along for a day, but then you have more opportunities when you're actually in the school. All schools will require a police information check for volunteers, and that's generally sort of a requirement when you're volunteering.
Thank you. And excellent, over here.
So when it comes to experience in a classroom, I've seen that many schools are a bit hesitant to give you control over their classrooms because you're not certified, you don't have enough experience yet. And they are often open to just having you observe or just helping out students when they're doing their own work, answering questions. So if you're in a classroom and you don't have that position of authority, does that experience count for anything towards the programs, or is it just for anyone?
Yes, yes, it does. Short answer, yes, it does. You all have to start somewhere.
Like if that's all we have, just that, and we don't have actual experience of having control over the classroom and running that.
Yes, time in the classroom, whether it's observing or being more participatory, will be taken into account. And if you feel like you aren't getting what you are looking for, then maybe looking at a different opportunity like a community center, day camp, one of the winter break camps or spring break camps, or an after school program, there might be other opportunities for you to have more interaction. So you could explore those options also. So let's say maybe, yes, this is a very good point, that you're definitely going to start out just being observed and you observing, so that if you are there for a longer amount of time, then you will hopefully be given a little bit more responsibility. Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Maybe we have time for one or two more questions before we let people come up and ask individual questions or talk wherever we're going to be talking with our colleagues here.
This one's kind of for all the schools. If there was one thing you had to pick that stands out on an application, what would it be?
If there's one thing that stands out in an application, I'll let you guys come up. What would it be if you could find what, if you could identify one thing? It sounds like it's a big picture. I think that one thing that I've heard from everybody is they really are looking holistically at the applicants. It's not just your GPA. It's not only your references. It's not only where or how much or how many hours you volunteered. It's going to be how it all fits together, because everybody is interested in creating a well-developed teacher who is able to give to their students.
And there isn't one thing that's going to make or break an application, or that will make an application, but there is one thing that will break an application. You know, sometimes, and this is where the references come in really, really importantly. So and I've seen this before with students who maybe don't have a good rapport with a reference, or they have the wrong referees, and they haven't prepared them well, and the referee says bad things about them, that can tank an application. So you want to make sure that the people you have approached to be your referee, that you're on the same page about what you need from them, because that is the one thing in my experience that can tank an application. GPA, if everything else is good, the GPA doesn't matter that much, but it can be the difference, right? And I always use the example of, in a competitive environment program, and if there's one seat left and I have two applicants and they're functionally identical, but one has something that the other one doesn't have, that can be the one thing that stands out. But as a general rule, no, there isn't one thing that we say, yes, all these people are in and people without this are not in. It's more of an art than a science, and it's and I think, I don't know, I can't speak for the other schools here, but the admissions process, it's a human process. These are people, not machines, who are looking at these applications, And so keeping that in mind, no matter where you're applying, or if you apply to everywhere, all the TEPs I know of have actual people reading these. So think about that when you apply.
And I will also say for those students who are in maybe your second or beginning your third year at KPU, or your 60 to 90 credits, the admissions process looks at your most recent 60 credits to the application going in. So lots of students don't know what they're doing in their first year of university, and maybe they don't study the best, or they didn't know where they were going, or any number of things. Your first year is not going to count against you when you are applying for these programs. It's really going to be who you are as a student in your last 2 years and the grades that you get at that time. So don't think if your first year was not your best year that you've just sunk your chances. That's not how it goes. So once you figure out your focus, that's where they're going to be looking for the grade requirements. So thank you so much for all of our student participation. Thank you so much for our presenters being here today. I'm going to give some time for individual questions, and we are going to post this on our website. So if students weren't here with us, they will get the benefit of these presentations. And I wish all of our students very good luck in reaching your goals. I'm so glad that you are starting your journey with KPU, and I hope you find a fit with these schools or the other schools in our region. But this is a great place to start. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. All right.